In the suffocating silence of a makeshift shelter, snow fell, a quiet, indifferent blanket over the taiga. Inside, Alex sat, eyes hollow, while Brenda curled in a corner, her face a mask of exhaustion. The only sound was the wind, a lonely whistle through the cracks, but the silence itself was the heaviest burden, so thick each breath felt like a weight. Days of hunger, cold and loss had piled up, a crushing boulder on their fragile spirits. They had both endured so much, but their ways of coping were splintering. Suddenly the silence shattered. "Alex, this is all your fault." Brenda's voice, though trembling, was a blade. "If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here suffering like this." Alex didn't look up. He said nothing. A part of him knew she wasn't entirely wrong. The relentless trials of the taiga, the gnawing hunger, the weight of responsibility, it was all his to carry. But words were useless now. He sighed, a silent act of endurance, refusing to let his own frayed emotions take control. "You don't understand," she pressed on, stepping closer, her face a storm of fury and despair. "We're falling apart, Alex. Every single day I feel like I'm losing a piece of myself." Tears carved paths down her grimy cheeks. This wasn't just an argument, it was a biological meltdown. A severe calorie deficit and plummeting blood sugar had left their bodies with virtually no energy. When the body enters survival mode, the brain's priority shifts. Higher functions like empathy and emotional regulation are sidelined. The primal reactive parts of the brain take over, allowing negative emotions to run rampant. Brenda's outburst wasn't a choice. It was a symptom of a body and mind pushed to their absolute limits. Alex watched her, a knot of compassion and helplessness in his chest. He saw the science playing out in her red-rimmed eyes. Low glucose forces the brain to conserve energy, making self-control almost impossible. The distance between them was no longer just physical, it was metabolic. Brenda's voice dropped to a whisper, weak but sharp. "We've become strangers." Alex's own hands trembled as he clutched a cold bowl. His mind, starved of fuel, struggled to process. Physical exhaustion had seeped into his very soul. When your body is screaming for energy, the capacity for empathy evaporates. Every gesture, every word from another person can feel like a threat, an unwelcome demand on your dwindling resources. He could only offer a blank stare, his eyes reflecting a man lost, tired, but still clinging to a thread of hope. The silence returned, broken only by the wind and the soft patter of snow. Slowly, as if lifting a great weight, Alex reached out and gently touched Brenda's shoulder. It was a small gesture, but it cost him everything he had. The faint light from their makeshift stove cast long shadows, a fragile warmth in the bitter cold. We have to keep going, Brenda," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "I know words can't fix this right now, but I'm not giving up." She looked at his hand, and for a moment the hardness in her eyes softened. The fracture between them was still there, deep and jagged, but his touch was a bridge. They both understood. The hunger, the cold, the constant energy deficit, it had stripped them of their higher selves. It made them distant, quick to anger, and less human in their interactions. This wasn't a failure of character, it was a predictable biological response to extreme deprivation. Alex began to prepare their meager dinner, carefully dividing the last of their food into 2 equal portions. Every movement was measured, conserving precious energy. Brenda sat opposite him, watching. Outside, the taiga stretched on, vast, white and merciless. It was a world of brutal, majestic beauty, a stark contrast to the fragility of the 2 small humans huddled within it. They ate in silence. But it was a different silence now. It was the silence of acceptance. They were accepting that the cold and hunger had warped them, that survival demanded they carry on even as parts of their humanity were being eroded. The weak light flickered across their pale faces, a scene both tragic and beautiful. Brenda looked towards the snow-swept window. The storm hadn't passed. Alex bent down, adding more wood to the fire. Life went on, fractures and all. Their relationship was cracked, but a single fragile thread held it together. It was just enough to see them through another long, cold night in a world where survival itself was the only goal. In the quiet, Alex's thoughts were clear. To live, we have to accept that we are imperfect. Hunger and cold don't just change you, they expose the raw mechanics of what it means to be human. They also teach a brutal kind of resilience. Brenda, though still tense, felt a tiny flicker of that same resilience. She knew this was the real test. The taiga didn't just challenge the body. It was a war waged inside the mind. The cold, the hunger, the fatigue, they were the weapons. Every decision, every gesture was a battle. In that dim light, two human beings faced a stark truth. They were biological machines, struggling against a relentless environment and the absolute limits of their own bodies. That night, under the snow-filled sky, Alex and Brenda continued to live. Exhausted, broken, but holding on to a fragile fragment of what made them human. Their story has no neat ending, because in true survival, there isn't one. It's a constant, lingering state of being, a reminder that we are both incredibly small and miraculously resilient. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the human condition under extreme pressure. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Stay curious, stay thoughtful, and we'll see you in the next video.